Yeah.
And we're live. Hey, YouTube, how's it going? We got a great episode in front of us, so we're just going to go ahead and without any further ado, I'm going to scroll up to the top of the notes, and here we go. Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR, Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 253. We hope you and yours are well, and with everything crazy going on, we want to continue to be a platform that promotes positivity, life, hope, and a little Star Wars along the way. Today, we are celebrating the birthday of James Earl Jones by doing an Imperial Inspection on Darth Vader. We also have a returning guest, a man that needs no introduction, so he will get none. Ro, how's it going?
How you doing, my friends? I'm glad to be here. I love hanging out with some fellow Chicagoans. And Carla, you'll still be a Chicagoan. Don't worry about it. But it's fantastic being here. Thank you for having me. And on this very prestigious evening, the birthday of Sir James Earl Jones. Is he a sir? I don't know. He's a sir in our house, as you can see here behind me. My favorite character of all time, fiction of any franchise ever. But we'll get to it. It's nice to be here.
Awesome. And of course, you can always find Ro over at the Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast and anywhere Red 5, the Red 5 network is broadcast. You can find him there. We also have Miss Carla Giacalone joining us. Welcome back, Carla.
Hello, everyone. I feel like it's been a while.
It has.
2022.
We've missed you, but welcome to current year. Todd and Heather have the night off, so that means, Carla, it's up to you to tease the news.
Oh my gosh. Big shoes. All right. 3 little teasers here. I've got Date Night, Power in a Name, and Knights of Who?
Who?
Question mark.
What could you possibly mean?
We'll get those answers later.
All right. Well, without any further ado, let's go ahead right into our main topic. All right, Ro, let's get right into it. Darth Vader. Where do we even begin with a character like this?
I don't know.
I'm kind of surprised we got this far with Imperial Inspection without doing one on Darth Vader. But
all right.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, we haven't done Vader yet?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Seems the most obvious way, but, well, we're far from obvious. So, Darth Vader, as a man, he's part man, part machine. He's made up of many different parts, and the actual portrayal of him is no exception. We've got the body actor, David Prowse. We've got the look from Ralph McQuarrie. We've got the voice from James Earl Jones. And it's all combined into something that is greater than the sum of its parts. So, Ro, I mean, let's start with you. What do you think, if you can boil it down to one thing, what is the one thing that makes Darth Vader so cool?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I would have to go back to 1977 when I was just a young lad sitting in a darkened theater with my popcorn, the Star Destroyer going overhead, and that scene where that blast door finally gets blast open. And, after the stormtroopers do their thing, that menacing dark figure walks through the blast door, and my jaw just physically drops into my popcorn bucket. And and it was just amazing. Obviously the visual of this character at the get-go is like, holy moly, who is this guy? You've got the extreme color scheme of the stormtroopers being all white. You had the ship that was all white. It was very well lit, but then all of a sudden, this just dark figure comes out of that hallway, and it's amazing. I was hooked.
Carla, same question for you. What about Darth Vader makes him so cool and memorable?
So I remember as a kid being petrified of Darth Vader. and not the look, but the breathing.
Oh.
I don't know what it was. It was just absolutely terrifying to me as a kid. So for a long time, I would watch the movies, especially Return of the Jedi for some reason. And it was that first part where he came, down to the shuttle, and I'd be like, no, fast forward. I don't want to see it. Like, I don't know. He scared the crap out of me.
Just by how he sounded.
Yeah. Like, I think that's one aspect of what makes him such a great villain, is that he just has this overwhelming presence about him, and I feel like he's not a typical villain either, that like comes in and is like, talking, blah, 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 mouthing off and all that stuff. Like he kind of sits back, he listens, he watches, and then he says what he needs to say. And he's just so, he just comes in and he kind of just takes over the room, and you're like, that guy, yeah, I don't want to mess with him.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for me, has to go, like Rose said, has to go back to New Hope. You have this world that George Lucas has devised where it's a mishmash of so many different things, and Darth Vader, he is obviously the samurai from so many different movies in the 50s and 60s, where it just, with one look, he's the bad guy, he's not to be messed with, and it's that shot where you have all of these soldiers who have just, tore the rebels a new one, and they're deferring to this guy who's just walking in and supervising, and he stands there with his hands on his hips, and okay, this is the one. He's choking a dude, he's throwing him around, and that would have made him really, really memorable. But what has kept him kind of capturing our imaginations is he develops from there. In A New Hope, he's just a guy. He's he's doing the Emperor's bidding. His leash is being held by Tarkin, and then we know that he killed Luke's father. And then in Empire, he becomes much more fleshed out. He is kind of second in command to the Emperor, but he's also commanding people left and right, and he's got this personal connection to Luke and is hunting him down. And of course, we find out that he's his father. And then there's this whole redemption arc in Return of the Jedi, and it's that it's that mixture of awe and kind of fear of him, but mixed with this, this emotional core underneath, and the story of how he is redeemed from this, evil villain to the savior of the galaxy, essentially. That's what's kept him kind of front and center for Star Wars for me. So let's shift to James Earl Jones for a second here. He is turning 91 years old. What did James bring to this role that you really love?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. James Earl Jones, his voice, I've heard different interviews with several different actors in the Star Wars world, and obviously, George Lucas just talking about the weight of his tone, the voice that really separates James Earl Jones' voiceover work in anything he does. He is instantly recognizable, obviously, and I think it's because of Darth Vader, because of the work that he's done in Star Wars. And obviously, he has been an actor for a really long time. He's 91 today, but Darth Vader will probably be, it'll go down. He'll go down in history for being that voice. And obviously he's been other voices, but when you hear James Earl Jones, there's absolutely no way you can confuse the voice, and instantly that's Darth Vader. So I would say it's the voice, it's the characterization of of James Earl Jones's work as Darth Vader, and not to take away from David Prowse and the other folks that, like you said earlier, comprise this character, but there is no Darth Vader without James Earl Jones.
Very true. Carla?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, it's just a question of like, if it's not him, like who, like, you know what I mean? Like you can't picture, thanks, Corbin. You can't picture anybody else in that voice. You know what I mean? It's just hard. It's hard to imagine. Ro, like you said, like, yes, like the physical presence, definitely is a part, but that voice, you could hear that voice anywhere and you're like, that's Darth Vader,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's true. I think originally George wanted to have Orson Welles as the voice, but he's like, he's too recognizable and too expensive. So we got to get somebody else. And then he came across James Earl Jones. And like you said, there's something about the timbre and quality of his voice that is just immediately arresting. And it's like, you shut up and listen to this guy.
Right.
And
absolutely.
That combined with the scuba breathing is it's just unforgettable. It's they did David Prowse dirty. There's no other way to put it. I don't know if you've seen any of the behind the scenes stuff where they have his original voice in and it sounds absolutely ridiculous. Not right for the character at all. So it's kind of inevitable that they would dub it. From his point of view, he's like, well, the mask muffled my voice and I could have done, my own voiceover. And so that probably still would not have been good in the long run. It would not have fit the character the best. But he's also right in that, they didn't really tell him that they were going to dub his voice until he showed up to the theater and there it was. So pretty big disappointment, I'm sure. But yeah, there's something to the power and expression and emotionality in James Earl Jones' voice that is just irreplaceable.
Absolutely. I tweeted out today that I hope they digitized him because 91 years old. I mean, he's getting up there.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
he's one of the actors that I dread the day that we lose him. It's gonna be hard for me, especially because of my connection to just loving this character.
Yeah, I noticed in Rogue One, because that was still him. You could tell, like it's still his voice, but you could tell it's a little off,
rougher
because because he is older. So, and I don't think has anybody else played Darth Vader's voice. Like I'm trying to think of like animated.
And I can't remember the actor's name, but somebody obviously played him in all three renditions of the radio drama.
Okay.
Yeah. And him, he's I'll look him up real fast, but once I say his name, you'll know him. But he's been played by that actor.
Yeah, he's also been voiced by Scott Lawrence in many of the video games, like in the Revenge of the Sith game, in Fallen Order. And it was actually James Earl Jones for Rebels, I believe. That voice.
Oh, it was okay.
Brock Peters.
Brock Peters.
Yeah, he was Admiral Cartwright in Star Trek, the Star Trek films.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was.
He's in Blazing Saddles.
He was Vader. Was he? Oh, and he was the prisoner in To Kill a Mockingbird. He was the guy on trial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's been around the block.
Yeah. Do you think Disney would stoop so low as to do that thing that they did for Val Kilmer? Are you familiar with that?
Do the thing.
So Val Kilmer had throat cancer, I believe, and he lost his voice. So there's this company that basically fed like all of his movies and like interviews and just recordings of him into this like
didn't they do that
like
with Mark Hamill?
Machine learning algorithm.
Yeah, right.
And they gave him a device that he could basically like talk and use his voice, and it sounds pretty damn natural. Go check it out if you haven't heard it yet. But I'm there's this dystopian future I'm imagining when it comes to movies where we don't have actors anymore. We have CGI renditions of actors with machine learned AI voices, and there's not even need for a director anymore. You can make your own movie by just like typing in whatever you want to see, and you can move around in VR and change your angles and everything. And
it's the easy button.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all going to be corporate slop.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worry that Disney they've already got contingency plans for when James Earl Jones dies. And they're going to be like, we own your voice forever.
Well, didn't they do that with Mark Hamill for the last episode of season 2 for Mandalorian? That's how they were doing some of that as well. And I think
interesting.
Tongue in cheek, I was actually thinking about that when I posted my tweet about digitizing him, because like I said, if you're going to have Darth Vader in future programs without James Earl Jones, I don't know how that's going to work. And obviously it will work because you'll have no choice. But to be able to, if they did that with Luke already with Mark Hamill, then I'm sure they'll do it for James Earl Jones because it's such an iconic character. It's hard to replace.
Yeah, re-speecher is what they used.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's the same thing that was used for Val Kilmer. The Luke thing I'm more okay with because he's actually alive. But and they have a whole ethics page on their website, and they're like, we're not trying to replace actors, just like make it so you don't have to do expensive reshoots and re-recordings and stuff like that. But we'll see.
That would be a good topic, a great topic for a show.
It would. Or like, I can already imagine some like dollar bin drama movie that's made where like a man gets framed for a crime that he didn't commit because they used re-speecher to make him say something he didn't say.
Right.
And he has to prove his innocence. So I at the same time, like we don't want him to go. All these Star Wars icons, we don't want him to go, but also it's been 50 years. Like Star Wars is big enough that we can move on without them with brand new characters, and it's going to be fine.
Right.
The Mandalorian and Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch, they've all proven that like we need to move on.
Sure. Exactly. And I can pop in my old DVDs and just keep watching the old stuff. So we're good.
Exactly.
So
Darth Vader, why do we like him so much as a villain? We've already covered some of this territory, I think, but in his role as a villain, what kind of sets him apart from other villains?
I wanted to ask Carla, because you said something earlier regarding a villain, his role as a villain. What did you mean specifically by he's not the usual villain? Because I find that comment interesting. He's not the usual villain, but at the time, like we didn't know. And again, even in those first scenes of A New Hope, when he popped out of the door, we didn't know that he was second fiddle to Emperor Palpatine.
Right.
Like he was the bad guy. He was it. But it's an interesting question. Like what sets him apart besides everything that we've already talked about? Obviously George Lucas loves to work in the archetypes. He loves to work in the legends area, the lore from all sorts of storytelling and religion and history. So it's a loaded question. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can name one thing, and it's he has this kind of mythological weight to him, where on the surface he's just kind of this. He's very much like a Joker. He's kind of like the Joker. He's very much like a force of nature, where there's not really too much personality to him, but he's just this unstoppable force of evil. But then we start to learn some more shades about him, like he's more machine than man. And in that sense, Lucas is trying to kind of set up these opposites within the Star Wars universe, where you have the Empire that's highly technological and industrialized versus the Jedi, who are very simple. They're aesthetic and very bare bones, and they're in touch with the power of life itself. And so with Darth Vader, you have someone who's in some ways functions like a Jedi, but he's made these trades and bargains where he's less man than he was. He's more robot, and in doing so, he has this kind of greater power, but it's at a cost of, mythically speaking, his own soul. And Star Wars is best when it really leans into that mythic symbology, and I think it makes Vader greater than he would be otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I think there's an element of humanity to Vader that's different too from other, villains that we see in films. I think a lot of times it's very one-sided, like, oh, they're evil, and we really don't know like why they are the way they are. We just know that they're evil, or that they're a bad person, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with Vader, especially now with all of the background and the different stories that we've gotten with him, you have the father aspect with Luke and Leia. You have the love story with Padme. I think it's just an interesting spin, because again, like that first scene that, anybody ever saw him, he's just this menacing presence bursting through this door of smoke. And it's like, whoa. But then you go to Empire and we find out he's Luke's father. And I think, at least for me, it didn't take away from the villain feel, but it was kind of like softened, if that makes sense. Like it was, oh, okay. So he recognizes Lucas's son, and he wants him to join him because he wants to rule together. And then ultimately, we have the redemption in Jedi. So I think there's an element of humanity to Vader that is just very unique in comparison to a lot of other film villain characters that we see.
Especially now, because we do have so much additional material on Anakin and Darth Vader, and obviously, the two characters are interchangeable to some degree. He's very multi-layered. Now we know what his motivations were. We know, like you said, we know the love aspect of why he did what he did, which is intriguing in and itself. Selling your soul to Palpatine to be able to save the one that you love from dying, as the line says, it's definitely an intriguing thing. And who wouldn't want to be motivated by trying to save someone that you love from death? So it definitely is. He definitely is an intriguing character, all around. Whether he's Anakin or Vader, I think it's really great that people have kind of gravitated towards kind of breaking down that character and just really, I don't know, for one reason or another, just falling in love with it.
Yeah. And with the prequels, we can say what we say about the prequels, but like even just thinking about the fact that he was a young boy, he was a child, he had a childhood, you know, he grew up with his mother and he went through all of those, you know, my psychology is coming in, but like those developmental stages of life. And then, you know, for him to switch and become this, again, this menacing being, you know, it's, I don't know, my mind always goes back to that poster for Phantom Menace when it was Anakin with the backpack, and then you have Vader's shadow on the, like, to me, that was so cool to see. I have it tattooed on my shoulder. Like, it's so, I don't know, that was one of the coolest things. It was how they made that work.
Absolutely. It's probably one of my favorite, you know, posters of the prequels. It really tells you everything in that one image, which is really great. And, you know, I've heard George Lucas talk about the fact that, you know, people were complaining that, you know, Anakin's this little kid, but, you know, I've heard George Lucas talk about, you know, the turn to the dark side. We all have it in us, and it's about the choices that we make along the way. So, you know, I think it's intriguing. I think it definitely allows for us to kind of see the lessons that Anakin learned, and then maybe apply them to us in some way. You know, through the fictionalized story of you know, this little boy who fell from grace. I mean, obviously we know of the of other stories like that. It's intriguing. It's intriguing.
It is. And it's so cool to see the kind of evolution of Darth Vader throughout the original trilogy, and you know, it's expanded on with the whole lore of Anakin in the prequels and otherwise. But what I really love is that at the beginning, like I said, he's just a guy. He's we don't really know. He doesn't really have a motivation. He's doing evil things because he's evil. We know what he wants. He wants the plans to the Death Star. He wants the Empire to succeed, and he's basically following orders. And that's fine when you just need a bad guy. But with Empire and then Return of the Jedi, he actually starts to get a motivation. He wants to not only carry out the will of the Emperor, but he also wants to like reconnect with his son and even overthrow the Emperor together, which, you know, paralleled with what he offers Padme to overthrow Palpatine. And then it's that love for his son that is powerful enough to redeem him and turn him back from the dark side to the light. And like you said, Ro, with what George Lucas has iterated, it's like, it's all about the choices that you make. And in some ways, you know, destiny is out there and is real. And in some ways, your life is predetermined, but also the ways that you respond to things. And you can always make new choices, and you can always be a better, more compassionate, kind, caring person than you were before, even despite great hardship and heartache and hurt. And that's blown up to like epic proportions with Darth Vader. It's so good.
Yep. It sure is.
So, but maybe we could find just look at different sides of Darth Vader. We have kind of the evil villain. We have the sympathetic victim. We also have in things like Lego and the Jeffrey Brown books, how he's kind of goofy and he's like a dad figure, or kind of like a funny villain. So, what do we learn from those different shades of Darth Vader?
That people like silly Star Wars.
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Those books are great.
But, you know, it also shows me that, you know, the character is much loved. both from fans and both on the creative end, the people that are doing these projects. He's a character that everybody grew up with in that industry, and we want to see more of it. So kudos to that aspect of the character. I think it's something that we all share. It's something that is loved by everyone. We all have that in common. Who doesn't love Darth Vader? I don't know one person that doesn't like Darth Vader in some capacity. So yeah, give me more Darth.
Mm-hmm. I could speak from the Legion aspect. Anytime we have an event and somebody comes in a Vader, he just steals the spotlight. Like, it doesn't matter who else is there. Like, I've been there in Leia. We've had Boba Fett. We've had Mando. Like, you could have the whole cast. Everybody just flocks to Vader, and everybody wants their picture with him. And, oh, can you choke me, dude? Like, come on, man, choke me. Like, it's just
that's funny.
And it's just fun. And it's fun to watch, like, the guys that I know really like bring it to life when they really, really get into it. And it's just so much fun. And then, like, the silly side of it, like, when I'm in Leia, I'll like run up to whoever's in Vader and be like, Dad, I'm so happy to see you, and he'll like respond like, hello, daughter. It's just fun to play with that aspect of him. But yeah, he, no matter what event that we do, he always steals the show.
Absolutely.
And then the other side of that coin is something we didn't bring up yet, but his appearance in Rogue One, and how he's just a completely terrifying horror movie monster.
Love it. And I enjoy that aspect of Darth Vader a hell of a lot more than the rest of that aspect. And I don't know, Carlo, we can get into my psychology. I don't know what that says about my state of mental health there, but being able to see Darth Vader in that last scene of Rogue One really brings joy to my heart.
Well, I think
take that for whatever you would like.
Yeah.
But I think but again, that goes back to my initial statement, was comes into this room and he's not like destroying things, and he's not like, overreacting to what's going on around him.
He's precise.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, when he's talking to the officer's name is escaping me right now, but he just
Krennic?
In A New Hope, when they're sitting at the table.
Moti.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But like all
Caesar
he does,
haircut guy?
Yes.
Yes.
But like he just lifts his hand, and like there's no physical
and you watch him saunter slowly over to him around Tarkin's chair, and just kind of just lift his hand. I love that.
Yeah. And I mean, we saw more of the physicality in Empire and Jedi, but I think Rogue One really took it to that next level that fans have been wanting to see for almost like Luke Skywalker at the end of Mando. We've always wanted to see how Luke was after the end of Jedi, and the fact that those two paralleled with each other.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I remember sitting in the theater and I was just like, oh my God, like freaking out. It's so good.
And to think we almost didn't get that scene. It was kind of like a last moment addition. So
yeah,
kudos.
he was supposed to originally land on the beach, I think, Vader.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like they were all supposed to, like have this whole showdown on the beach on Scarif.
What? Scarif?
It's weird that they did so many reshoots that they pretty much like redid the entire third act, but it's the strongest act of that movie.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think what makes that final scene with him in the hallway so great is the fact that he was sprinkled in, like there wasn't, because I remember watching and thinking, okay, when's Vader going to show up? When's Vader going to show up? And he doesn't show up until like what, halfway, maybe a little bit past the halfway mark.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you don't see him again.
Chilling out in his summer home.
Exactly. Right. And then, what he says, prepare a boarding party. And you're like, yo, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point, because they could have stuffed him into any number of scenes. He could have been hanging out with Tarkin on the Death Star for some reason, just to be there as a prop. But they took their time and they were patient with it. And I think it really paid off.
Definitely paid off. Yeah.
All right. So, is it easy to separate in your mind Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader in your mind, or are they essentially the same? How visible is that seam between the two?
That's an interesting question too, because I've had this conversation with Jimmy Mack over at Rebel Force Radio, and he, I know there's a lot of opinions about that, and obviously, he's the same. I think he's the same character. There's a transformation, obviously, one to the other. But there's a progression. I think he's the same character. It's just there's an arc there that, it starts here and it goes up and it goes down and then ends up, through the redemption. So he's the same character. It's just that he's gone through some stuff, basically.
Putting it lightly, but yes.
I think there's definitely a hard separation before Revenge of the Sith, for sure. Like that is Anakin Skywalker. I mean, we have the Tusken Raider scene where he goes and he slaughters them all, but like I don't consider
even
him
the even the children and the women and the children.
But I don't consider him Vader at that point. Like you see like the element of the dark side, and you're like, okay, like you see the anger, the hot-headedness, flying off the handle, thinking on, with his emotions. But it's not until Revenge of the Sith, I think, that transition begins. But also looking at, other content that we've gotten with Vader, I think Anakin kind of pops out every so often.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you guys have played the Vader Immortal game.
I have.
For the VR. So I never finished it, but I played it at a friend's house. But I got to play, I think it was like the first or the second episode of the game where you're crawling through like those tunnels and you peek through like the grate in the wall and you see Vader trying.
That was a second one.
Okay. And he's trying to channel Padme, and like, I don't know, it's almost like this moment of weakness, and you see Anakin again because he just wants to reach Padme through the Force. I think there's these little moments where he comes back for like a moment, but then right back to villain Vader.
And that's one of the reasons that I think that, and I see some chatter in the chat regarding him being two characters versus one character. I think he's one character with different levels or different levels that come to the surface at certain times, because, I think when you see Anakin as a kid and later on in the prequels as a young person, you can kind of see a little bit of his impatience, a little bit of, that dark side element. And obviously when he finally does the thing with Palpatine, and he becomes Darth Vader, he's free to put those elements up here instead of burying them. And I think that's something we all do. I think there's a duplicity within all of us where we go out in the world, we relate to other people, we act properly. But, the saying is, what do people do behind closed doors? And I think there's always an aspect of that in our own personalities. And, again, citing George Lucas, it's a lesson to us about our choices. And I think that's powerful for a fictional character.
Mm-hmm.
So there, Shanti.
Yeah. The whole question if it's two different characters or one is a tricky one. I'm going to borrow some Eastern thinking for a little bit here because George Lucas did that. And when we Westerners tend to think of personality, we think it's like this one fixed thing that follows us throughout our entire life. And, it can be molded or changed a little bit here and there, but it's pretty much the same. And we think that's who we are as a person, and that's the same thing throughout our entire life. Pick up a few different flavors here and there, but that's essentially it. When you boil it down, like, personality is just the different ways that you respond to different things, and that can change over time. And hopefully for most people it has, because we respond to things differently when we're children than as adults. And based on the choices that, if we're aware enough of how we respond to things, we can choose to respond differently. And you start running into the ship of Theseus problem, where it's like your body replaces all of its cells every 7 years, something like that. And if your personality can change and so many different aspects of you can change, then what is actually you? What is the you that remains constant throughout this whole thing? And it's that part of you that just experiences everything. And in that sense, I would say that Anakin and Darth Vader are the same person, in that it's the same person experiencing all these things and making different choices and responding in different ways. At the same time, with Darth Vader, you have this very drastic personality shift. And it's almost like he acts like a completely different person. And so, going back to the West now, let's talk about Carl Jung and the whole idea of a persona, which is kind of this false self that you put on like a mask. And it is usually in response to trauma of some sort or some kind of emotional crap that you haven't dealt with. And it's a protection mechanism.
Defense mechanisms.
Yeah, exactly. And so we could talk about Anakin and how with all the pain of, not growing up with a father, with living a life of slavery, constant challenges and trials, following the tough path of a Jedi, losing his mother and then giving in to rage and hatred, and just constantly being burdened with this expectation that he's going to be the chosen one. He's going to, do all these great things and save the galaxy. And then not being supported whatsoever by the Jedi Council that has told him this. And essentially being betrayed by this organization that has been his entire life's purpose up to this point, and then being played by Palpatine in a ploy for power and losing his one true love. That's a lot to deal with. And in falling to the dark side, he basically puts on this persona of Darth Vader, where he's basically giving into all of that. And he's like, you know what? If life sucks so much, I'm going to make it suck for everybody else. At least, at least I can do something about it. And at least people will fear and respect me if they don't love me. And in that sense, he's a different person, because he's just operating out of a completely different place, doing completely different things. But he has that connection with his son, Luke. And so with that, he's able to rediscover and become in touch with who he truly is. And Luke's like, I know there's good in you. I can sense it. You can't see it because you've had this mask on for so long, literally and figuratively, that you've completely forgotten what it feels like. And it's because of Luke's constant pleading and following in his very own footsteps. And Luke recognizes this too, because especially when he like chops off Vader's robot hand and realizes that, oh, I've done the same thing that my father's done. I'm following in his footsteps. And Vader realizes like, oh, I actually don't want this. I don't want my son to follow in my footsteps. I don't want him to experience the same pain and rage and confusion that I've gone through. And I thought I wanted to like rule the galaxy as father and son with him, but if it's going to cost this, no way. And he makes that choice where he's like, I can still put a stop to this. And he does. He returns to his true self. So, I always kind of take the middle position on things like this on this show, but it's kind of both. There's a sense where Anakin and Darth Vader are the same kind of continuous being throughout the whole thing. And there's a sense where, he shifts into a completely different person when he's Darth Vader. But the beautiful thing is that he returns to who he was at the end. I think that's powerful and hopeful, and a lesson for all of us, if I can go there.
Absolutely.
Well said, Aaron. I like that.
That's deep.
I just preached for like 5 minutes about Darth Vader. Okay, so what did the Emperor see in Anakin? Little Lanny, he's got the fresh haircut. He's next to Obi-Wan. Boss Nass says, "Peace." What does Palpatine see in him?
Unlimited power.
Yes.
I think it depends on your interpretation of that certain frame that some folks from the Lucasfilm story group have pointed out, that it was only an interpretation of how Anakin came to be. And that was that comic book where you can see Palpatine kind of doing some dark side magic on Shmi's pregnant stomach, implying that Palpatine was the one that somehow seeded her womb with Anakin, creating Anakin from the Force itself.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys remember that
behind her, and he's like,
right,
natural.
So if depending on how you interpret that, obviously, again, it's all about the interpretation. Palpatine told Anakin that the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and we have some more context there regarding being able to create life. So there is definitely a connection between those two stories and the two ways of seeing how Anakin came to be, and how Palpatine kind of, his light bulb came on, as far as, finding him. So, the folks at the story group basically said, not Palpatine didn't really create Anakin, but I think there's an argument that can be made that Palpatine told Anakin that, I can, Plagueis was able to create life, and I was his, obviously the connotation is that he was the pupil, the apprentice. And then that now he's able to create life. So we can kind of make that correlation, which is how I see it. I do see that Palpatine killed Plagueis after learning everything that he could about creating life, and he was still kind of trying to do that. We see that in Rebels. But I have a feeling that Palpatine created a Force user of unfathomable power in order for Palpatine to kind of use him. I don't think that Palpatine knew exactly where Anakin was, so there was almost like a wait and see approach to Anakin's, discovery, which he did. But it's interesting lore for me, because I find all of that stuff fascinating, and that's just something, that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, that's got me thinking. Like, was Palpatine aware of the Jedi prophecy, that there would be a chosen one who would bring balance to the Force? Because
Yeah.
if he was he just so arrogant that he thought that he could control it in a way that he would not end up fulfilling the prophecy, or was he completely unaware of it?
But that goes into a kind of a circle, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like it's
Yeah.
like if you're thinking that you're going to fail, oh my God, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, and all of a sudden you fail because you think you're going to fail. It's like you're doing that yourself. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So whether he knew about the prophecy or not, let's say he did, and he waved his magic wand and created Anakin. All of a sudden Anakin becomes the chosen one. Well, who's to say that that's not the way it was supposed to happen anyways? Right? Circle.
Yeah.
Huh.
I guess that's fair.
I like that one.
You're onto something. Don't let Pablo know. Yeah, because it seems a little far-fetched that you're going to basically artificially create this person that you will then manipulate to cause the downfall of the Jedi and raising yourself to the most powerful position in the galaxy. But Palpatine's crazy enough to try, and by God, he did it.
Yeah.
I think he became expendable to Palpatine, though. Like once
Sure.
Luke came into the picture, like, so it was really just I mean, he kind of, he primed Anakin and brought him into his circle and made him think like, oh, you're powerful. Like, come help me, rule the galaxy this way. The way they do it is wrong. Blah blah blah. All that, and manipulates, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, you've got a kid. Oh, he's probably just as powerful. You're gonna get old and crusty and not be any use to me anymore. So he's expendable at that point.
I think Anakin's expendability came even before that, when he fought Obi-Wan on Mustafar and his body became damaged. I think Palpatine's ultimate goal there was, we see that in Rebels, he was trying to manipulate, Palpatine was getting old and he wanted to jump bodies. And we also see that in the Dark Horse comics a little bit. And obviously we see that from the sequel trilogies, the sequel trilogy, that the story somehow Palpatine returned. Okay, there you go. But I think, once Vader was injured, he was no longer as powerful as Anakin would have been if he continued to train under Palpatine with no restrictions with his body. I mean, Anakin, after the Battle of Mustafar, he had to be dunked into Bacta for, periods of time to just strengthen his body. There's a comic book. There's also a comic book that describes the sheer pain of existing for Anakin at the point after he had the battle, the scars, the burning, the lack of limbs that were damaged. But Vader at that point used that pain and used that rage to fuel his dark side power. But imagine if Anakin was not injured, and imagine Palpatine continuing to train him in the dark arts. I think at that point he would have been one of the most powerful Sith Lords out there.
To what end, though? Is Palpatine just trying to make a more powerful Sith to like take his place?
Yes.
Kind of according to the Sith philosophy.
I think so.
Because that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is he's trying to ride that line between like having the most powerful person who will do what I say and oh God, he's too powerful. He's going to kill me.
Hmm.
No, and I think again, drawing back to the comic books, there was a Dark Lord. His name was Darth Momin, who had his essence transferred to his mask, and I think the Sith were kind of trying to do that with bodies. Palpatine obviously was very powerful. He did what he did, and he achieved probably what no Sith Lord has achieved up until that point. But I think Palpatine was grooming Anakin to be able to jump into his body once he groomed Anakin to be strong, to be powerful in the dark side. He would have been the ultimate foe.
So if that's the case, and Anakin became very restricted in what he could do as a result of losing the duel with Obi-Wan, do you think that's why Palpatine was hot to trot for Luke and seducing him to the dark side and Return of the Jedi?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, yeah.
He's like, I've got this fresh young boy here.
That doesn't sound creepy.
Some young man meat.
Exactly.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
I hadn't considered the body jumping hypothesis, but it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to wrap this discussion in a bow, ultimately, what can we learn from Darth Vader? What's to take away?
Wow, there's all these questions don't have easy answers. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Anakin's choices. Obviously, we can learn from that. I don't know. Carla, what do you got?
I would say that a good lesson from Vader is to not make decisions when you're in a state of heightened emotions.
Yes.
Because your brain literally cannot make logical decisions when you're, angry or really sad or even really happy. Like, could be a positive emotion, that too. Like, yeah. I think that's something that is difficult as human beings, because we're in the heat of the moment, and we want to act upon how we feel, but then once the dust settles and things cool down, and you look back and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's like going grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Exactly. Yep. That's always trouble.
Yeah, that's the tragedy of Anakin, isn't it? Is that he was not able to control his emotions and learn how to manage them, and ultimately it got him into trouble so hard that he didn't have any other choice but to walk down the path of the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we can learn anything from Anakin / Vader, going back to Carla's comment on psychology, is, we are multifaceted creatures, and to be able to learn to not only control every aspect of our personality, but maybe have every aspect of our personality talk to each other, understand each other, understand that we have different facets to our personality, and just kind of go with it, live with that fact. Don't act on just pure instinct, but maybe, take a step back and listen to yourselves in plural, and, come to a conclusion that way. And I know sometimes, people are like, no, you got to, act now, because it's, it's going to be different. And I think there's a balance there.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely is a balance there, because we can't always go around, acting on the first thought that comes across our head. We have to kind of think critically about it, but we have to use different aspects of our personality to do it.
Yeah. If
Mhm.
if the Jedi went too far, it's in the whole repressing emotion and attachments thing, where to them it was the means to an end, as far as making people who were skilled enough with the Force and in touch with it enough and directed towards the common goal of keeping the galaxy at peace. And maybe they had their reasons for that, but Luke kind of demonstrates a different way, where it's more about living your life as the authentic self, and Vader's the opposite of that, where he's kind of living this lie. And what we can learn from him is that if you really want to truly be who you are, and not that it's going to be a guarantee against suffering or anything like that, but if you want to make the world a better place and live the kind of life that you won't regret, like you have to be operating out of that true self, and making the kind of choices that are going to be the best for you, and not controlled or overridden by emotions. And emotions are a key ingredient in that, because it's by emotions that you get anything done, and that you're actually motivated to do things, good or evil.
Right.
But you have to be able to be the person who makes those kinds of choices and decisions, and not let emotions be in charge, but not also suppressing them so hard that you're without tools to do what you need to do, and also opening yourself up to abuse and manipulation. Thanks, Palpatine.
Sure. Yeah. And have a snack when you go to Jewel. Come on.
Yes. Get some protein in there before you head out. All right.
Do I have to explain to non-Midwest people what Jewel is? It's our grocery store here in the Midwest.
Yeah, it's like it's like your Safeway, it's like your Piggly Wiggly, it's like your insert regional equivalent here.
Right.
Like, not as bad as Walmart, like a little nicer than that, but not much. Let's be real. All right, we got plenty of episode left, but we're going to take a moment here to pay the bills. So this podcast is brought to you by Audible, Amazon's premier audiobook streaming service. Head on over to audibletrial.com/WSTR. You can get your free 30-day trial, which includes a free audiobook of your choice. You could choose from over, well, the number here is 425,000. That was a while ago. It's probably like 500,000 now. Over 500,000 titles to choose from. Any audiobook, you get it for free. No questions asked. You also get 2 free Audible originals. Those are kind of mini audiobook experiences you can only get through Audible. And those are cycled out each month, so there's always something new to look forward to. And hey, if you want to game the system and you don't want to pay a dime, you can cancel within that first month. No questions asked. We still get a payout. You still get a free audiobook. Jeff Bezos loses. Everybody else wins. So audibletrial.com/WSTR if you want to stick it to the man. We're also brought to you by our Patreon, patreon.com/WSTR media. It's a great way to support local, organic, homegrown, grass-fed creators out there. And we are no exception. So our current patrons are Jeremy Myers, Scarif Scuttlebutt, thank you, Elena Strikes, Nicholas Schaefer, Rural Farm Boy, and David Sager and Kevin Abato. Thank you so much for your patronage. They are enjoying exclusive content you can't get anywhere else, including Carla's Costuming Corner, Heather's Holocron, and Tabletop Workbench, my weird series where I talk about tabletop gaming for way too long. But it's a lot of fun. We have fun there. And if you support us, we'll also throw some swag directly into your face, no matter where you are. So patreon.com/WSTR media. It's a great way to support this podcast. Please consider it. All right. The bills are paid. Carla, that means only one thing. And I think you can guess what that is.
Time to take out the trash.
Twitter trash compactor.
All right. So for this week, we were talking to Sky from Star Wars Galaxy's Restoration 3 project. And we wanted to know what was your favorite profession in Star Wars Galaxies. Drop the comments, vote, write in. And we did have one write in. But I'll read our choices first. So 4 professions: brawler, marksman, scout, or politician.
Ooh.
And our write-in here comes from Tyler Garrett, who says, difficult. Without scout, you can't negotiate terrain and pretty much worthless in certain elements of the game. And that's only if you're in player versus player situations. Can't politic your way out of a master brawler, though. Might get your knee bashed, similar to modern politics.
I love it.
That's great. Well, thanks for writing in, Tyler. And we've got a pretty even spread here.
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah. So Scout took number 1, 33% of the poll.
Mhm.
And then Brawler, Marksman, and Politician all got 22%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you pick, Carla?
I have no idea because I don't ever remember playing this.
Oh my God.
So I'm just gonna go and say Brawler because I'm little and I'm mighty. So
Nice.
I'll go with that one.
Nice. Ro, what would you pick?
Scout.
Okay.
Done
like
deal.
You like getting the lay of the land? You're a ranger?
Yeah.
Okay. I would pick marksman. Like whenever there's like an FPS I'm playing or whatever, I always gravitate towards like, your designated marksman rifles, your sniper rifles. I want to get like far away and just like take a peek on the situation, look down on people and just pew, and then run away. That's my jam.
Very nice. Well, that's all the garbage I got.
All right. Trash is out.
But I do have some intercepted Imperial transmissions.
Ooh.
All right. So Ro, you sent one in, but I think we're gonna wait till next week for yours.
Right. I did hear that.
Yes. But we do have another one here, an email that we received about what your force power would be if you were a Sith or a Jedi. And this comes from Dana. She says, greetings. It is Des, I think that says. From Des. From Sithy Minutes. And she says, hello. If I were a Sith, my force power would be to sense all the shit I seem to lose on a daily basis. Keys, ? Reach out with the force and seek out the keys stuck in the sofa cushions. Phone ? Let the force guide you to call your wife's number and hope your phone will start ringing. Kids ? Tell them this is the room you want to clean. But this is the way to unlimited power. If all else fails, bitches get force lightning stitches.
Oh
my gosh, that's hilarious.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you, Des, for writing in.
That's probably how it would be in the Vader household now, wouldn't it? I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So little transmission there, and Ro, we'll look forward to hearing yours next week.
Looking forward to hearing it too. It's a little long, so I know you guys can cut it, but it's kind of scary because it goes into my whole dark side persona. So we'll see what you have to say about that one.
Okay.
Some of us like that sort of thing. We'll see. Awesome.
All right.
Well, Carla, I think that's
Now-
time for
News of the week. Okay. So first up here, this article comes from BuzzFeed.com, and it's pretty funny. So if you're not on like social media or anything, you're not familiar with random stories and stuff that are put out there. Supposedly Leonardo DiCaprio is a big Star Wars fan, and a viral story has been going around from his girlfriend, Camilla Morone, on what she called the worst date of my life. What is this all about? So apparently, Leo rented out like a whole movie theater for just the two of them. And she claims that he made her watch every single Star Wars movie while he ran around with his lightsaber pretending to fight bad guys. I don't see what the problem is here.
Best date ever.
Exactly. But yeah, apparently this is fake. It was all on Twitter trash as always. And they're still, presumably they're still dating. I don't know anything about celebrities and gossip and all that. So they're still dating. Great. Good for them. But I think there was another story with him and, was it
Jonah Hill?
Hill? Yeah.
Mhm.
So apparently Leo and Jonah Hill were watching The Mandalorian while they were filming that movie they were in together, Don't Look Up.
Mhm.
And Jonah Hill's like, okay, I really don't know what's going on, but Grogu's really cute. So
Oh, this
Yeah.
is amazing.
yeah.
I love every
But
bit of this.
I don't know. I guess that one's true if it's coming from Jonah Hill, but the girlfriend story is supposedly not true. I mean, and if she did say that, I mean, she's weird. I mean, let her go, Leo. She doesn't-
Right.
she doesn't like
Exactly.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Drop her like a bad habit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always cool to see when celebrities geek out with Star Wars. I don't know if you guys know, is it Adam Scott, I believe. He was in Parks and Rec, Step Brothers.
Oh, is he a huge Star Wars nerd?
Yes. So this was like a few years ago, but there was a point when he was on Jimmy Kimmel's talk show. Jimmy Kimmel was out and it was Kristen Bell, I think, that was filling in. And he's talking about how when he was little, he wrote a letter to Mark Hamill because he really wanted Luke Skywalker to come to his birthday party.
Oh.
And, he's like,
yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking, why would he ever show up to my birthday, whatever. And all of a sudden, like they start playing the Star Wars theme and he's just sitting there and it would be like any one of us sitting there, just
Right.
like frozen, like, what the hell is going on right now? And they pan the camera to backstage and you see Mark Hamill and he lights up his lightsaber and he walks out from like behind a door, and the look on Adam Scott's face, like he's actually like trembling and there's like tears in
Wow.
his eyes. And yeah, so it's just cool to see that, there's just, everybody loves it. How could you not love it?
Absolutely.
Kanye's a big Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
Is he really?
Especially the prequels. Yeah. He's talking on Joe Rogan's show about the prequels, and he just like geeked out for like 10 minutes about the Star Wars prequels, and now he hates Disney's sequels and how corporatized they are.
I'd be interested to hear that, just because it's Kanye and
Oh yeah,
Kanye's an interesting man.
if nothing else.
Yes. All right. So moving on. our next news item here comes from comicbook.com. And we're talking about the Wookiee, the famous Wookiee now. Move over, Chewbacca. Step to the side. So if you haven't caught up on Boba Fett, maybe cover your ears for a little bit. But in one of the most recent episodes, we saw that there was a Wookiee by the name of Chrysanthemum. Am I saying that? Black Chrysanthemum.
Very good. Very good.
And for those who are into the comics and all that stuff, this is not the first that we've seen of him. He was in the Darth Vader series and worked with Dr. Aphra as a bounty hunter. So it was pretty cool to see him live action on the screen. But apparently this was not the name that they had initially given to him. And it's pretty funny. So Kieron Gillen, who was, working on the comic and all that and drafting it, he said that, I swear this isn't a joke, I just went back to my first draft for Darth Vader 1, and my working name for Black Chrysanthemum was New Baka.
New Baka. Love it.
New Baka. But he also said, going back to my first drafts and finding working names for all my characters could be a fun exercise. There's a lot of search and replace as I move to finalize the script. So, could you imagine? New Baka.
New Baka.
I'm all about it.
Listen, at least it's not like lumpy or something like that. Yeah.
Can I just say that, I'm actually afraid of Wookiees now after Black Chrysanthemum?
Yes.
Yeah. He's.
With all due respect to Chewbacca, they always made a big deal about how deadly Wookiees are, and he never felt like that. He felt like a pet in
big teddy bear
in all the movies.
Big teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
But just something about the way they made him look in Book of Boba Fett. I'm like, oh, he actually looks sinister and deadly and dangerous, and oh my god. So
he could tear my arms out of their sockets.
Yeah. And here's how I know it worked. People who don't know a thing about Black Chrysanthemum are saying like, oh, that dude's awesome. I'm also terrified. Please help.
Yeah.
Super cool. I like his Mario Kart shells on his shoulder.
He's got the Bowser look going on.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
That's New Baka.
Yeah. And finally here, from CBR.com, recently there was a leaked Knights of Ren trailer that has Star Wars fans buzzing and talking about.
Buzz.
Everybody's trying to figure out, is it real or just a really good fake video? So I know we had in our group, someone had sent it. And at first it was like, oh, like I was fooled for a second until someone pointed out like the timeline and all that. And then I was like, oh, now I feel silly. But the footage features a very, I like this, Lord of the Rings, Nazgul looking member of the Knights of Ren. He leaps from a TIE fighter. He's chopping X-Wings apart with a saber. And the supposed title here is Knights of Ren, a Star Wars story. And it kind of had like the similar like Rogue One look to it with the title and all that. But I mean,
not the Rogue One font. We won't go there, will we?
Armand's not here. We could talk about it.
Yeah. But I mean, it looks convincing because like right at the end, they slapped the whole Disney Plus thing in there. The Lucasfilm is at the beginning. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I looked at it too, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. But I did notice there's like a timeline continuity issue with the TIE fighter and the X-wing. I'm like, wait a minute, they don't match to the era that the Knight of Ren is supposed to be in, and I think that's what kind of like threw me off first.
Yeah, what I'm just confused by this whole thing. And let me explain why. So it looks very, very good. Could be professional level. And if it's like, if it's just like a dude or like a small team of people doing it, like, bravo, you have something to be proud of. But
yeah.
I'm weirded out by like how it was delivered, because there, you know, you could throw a stick down YouTube and hit like half a dozen Star Wars fan projects where they're made in Unreal Engine or whatever, and they're just like straight uploaded, and they always say like, this is a fan project, don't delete this, lawyers of Disney, and you know, it's fine. But this was released very weird, where they claimed to be a, you know, leaked trailer for a Disney Plus show, which, like you said, there's continuity errors with it, and the date on the Disney Plus screen is all wrong. It's like 2021, and some people have said like this could be made as a kind of promotional material, as kind of like a pitch to Disney executives to be like, hey, this is the kind of show that we want to make. That said, you know, why would there be the weird continuity errors when it's not that hard to make a Resistance
First
X-wing,
Order, right,
and First Order TIE fighter. Goodness. Second of all, it's like, what's the end goal here? Because if it's just to like get that kind of viral boost for clicks and such, like, congrats, you won, because we're talking about it right now. But
exactly,
if you want to show off your skills as like an animator or effects artist or whatever, like, wouldn't you just upload it straight away to YouTube without the kind of like shaky cell phone footage in some theater? And if you want to pass it off as like a genuine article, well, that's going to be found out eventually. And then I thought, maybe they're trying to do a thing like that deepfake guy did, where, you know, he did a better job of making, you know, a deepfaked Luke for The Mandalorian, and then he eventually got hired for other work that he did. Maybe he's trying to do that, and he's like, hey, Disney, check it out. I can do this for you. Why would they ever trust you with anything if they know that you're just going to leak stuff? Because you just pretended that you did. So yeah, I don't know what's going on here. What's the end game? Who made this? Why? Help me out.
We'll find out in 72 days.
Okay.
Mark your calendars. 72 days. We'll get some sort of answer. Some guy will come out and say, yeah, I did it. It was a pitch. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'd like to come back in 72 days when we find out, and we'll talk about it then.
Apparently, Pablo Hidalgo himself denounced it on Twitter.
Oh.
He said someone tweeted a link to the trailer and said, "Do I have to have the same conversation I had with my grandma about super obvious fake internet information with Forbes?" And Pablo Hidalgo responded. He said, I don't quite get why faked trailer leaks are so shaky. It's not that hard to hold a phone anymore." So that seems to confirm it's a fake. I guess we'll see. I would not hold my breath, though.
Yeah. But it does show that people want more Knights of Ren.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Although whatever
does it though? Does it?
I mean, they could have went with anything, really.
I think any Star Wars leak is going to go like crazy.
Yeah, true.
But here's my like proof positive that this is a fake. Disney has not taken it down. It's still available. There's a leak about basically the plot of the whole first season of Book of Boba Fett. I think it was leaked on 4chan, and within like an hour or so of it being posted, it was just gone, nuked. Like people have made copies of it, of course, but that's where, you know, like Star Wars leaks are generally always true, except when they're not. And especially when they're true, they're going to be taken down by Disney. So, and this is not yet. Oh, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think that's all the news that I got.
That means it's time for Cantina Chat. All right, welcome to the part of the show where we talk about everything geeky and weird going on with our lives. Carla, what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I don't even know like what the last thing was that I talked about on here. I mean, Christmas was a while back, but I got some cool stuff for Christmas.
Nice.
Some geeky gifts. Trying to think. Working on the embroidery still. And so Christmas gift, Brian's sister got us the board game Talisman.
Yeah.
Have you ever played that? And we broke it out, we set it up, and at first, you know, we're reading through the rules and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. But once you actually get playing and you move through, it was a lot of fun. And we played a few times. We played with my sister, who she's not even really like into like the geeky nerdy stuff like that. And she had a good time. And it was so funny because you know how you have to get the talisman to get up into the middle region of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone through the portal and I made it through and I'm like, oh yes, great. And I get to the spot on the board and I realized I don't have a talisman. So I can't even do anything at this point.
No.
So I would have had to go back to the first, because I was pissed because a talisman had been dropped. Like, you know how you can leave objects on a space?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just totally like, you know, and I was playing as a wizard and we were making a few drinks. We were, you know, having a good time. And there's like, Carla, you're like the drunken wizard. Like you went through the whole thing. You're like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I think we're going to look into getting one of the expansions pretty soon.
Nice. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Other than that, working, living life. It's been good. So can't complain.
Awesome. Ro, what have you been up to?
Well, last weekend, I went down to Florida to take care of some family business. My wife's father lives down there. But funny story, originally, it was just my wife that was going to go to Florida. But I, you know, her father said that he wanted to see, you know, my son, his grandson. And so we changed some things around and my wife is like, you know, I can't get the hotel to accommodate all of us now that we're all going. Everything is booked downtown St. Petersburg, something about, I don't know, some sort of like comic convention or something. And I'm like, wait, hold the phone. Did you just say? So it turns out that on that Sunday that I was going to be there, the first annual St. Petersburg Comic-Con was being held. And I asked Charles to join me. I took my equipment with me. And this Thursday, we're actually dropping the coverage of that convention with Charles on the Scarif Scuttlebutt. So I'm really excited to share that with everybody on Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It turned out really nice. We talked to the organizer. We talked to some families. We talked to some vendors and had a really great time just hanging out there with some Mando Mercs and 501sts from Tampa that traveled down to St. Pete. Lovely people, us nerds.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
How fortuitous.
Yes. It's like poetry.
It rhymes. Awesome. Well, I've been busy. Yesterday we had over at the apartment, we had a double feature with Rogue One and A New Hope as part of our regular Star Wars nights, and it was awesome. So Rogue One I have not seen since I saw it in the theater, and I was surprised with just how well it holds up visually and as a Star Wars story. It still has its issues with the first and second acts kind of like getting along, and then the third act, it just perfect. And then
Wait,
I was
Aaron, you haven't watched Rogue One since 2016.
Wow.
Yes.
I wasn't going to say anything.
What is you doing?
I know I'm not a real Star Wars fan, but I didn't need to. It was awesome.
It's all in here, right? It's all in here.
It's all in my brain. Except this time we were able to spot Chopper and the Ghost. So that was
Nice.
pretty nice. Post having seen Rebels, that was a nice touch. I think at one point over the intercom they called for General Syndulla, and I'm like, oh. So
Mhm.
that was cool. And then we saw A New Hope, and I was worried that there'd be this kind of whiplash where we go from how gorgeous Rogue One is to, the 70s, and we watched the Harmy's despecialized edit of A New Hope, which, if you don't know, tries to bring it basically as close to the theatrical cut as possible without all of George Lucas's shenanigans piled on top. And that's a beautiful looking movie. Film holds up really, really well if you take care of it, and this is no exception. So it was great. I was really touched with like how well edited that movie is, especially the Death Star battle. It's just like constantly keeps you on your toes, doesn't hold on any one shot for too long, and it keeps building and building in intensity. And like, I was worried for Luke at the end of it, and I'm like, I've seen this movie a million times, I know what happens. So it works.
That's Marsha Lucas for you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Marsha Lucas. She saved that movie, because by God. Then the day prior to that, Saturday, I had the finale of this arc of my Star Wars campaign for the tabletop game that I'm running, and I'll spare you most of the details, but this takes place in the Old Republic. My players, they're the senior officers of this mercenary company that they've been getting a bigger and bigger profile throughout the galaxy, and they've attracted the attention of this rival mercenary company called Blood Wolf that they've been in this kind of protracted war with for months and months and months. Finally, they learn the location of Blood Wolf's headquarters, which is this like Mandalorian capital ship that they've taken over. So my players, they actually make an attack, and while they're having this kind of main attack in the hangar of this ship, two of the players who couldn't make it to that session, I sent on a secret mission to basically disable the ship's hyperdrive and all their concussion missiles so they don't destroy their own ship. And eventually they reunite, they've won the battle, and all that's left is to make their way to the bridge of the ship and kind of confront the leader of Blood Wolf and either get him to surrender or kill him. And when I was putting this session together, I knew that what would probably happen is they end up fighting the leader, but I thought it'd be boring if it was just like a simplistic villain that they have to take down. So I'm like, he needs some kind of ace in the hole so that they don't just kill him outright and that it's boring and undramatic. And like 5 minutes before the session started, I'm like, what if he has connections to Revan's fleet, and he's already called them, and they're on their way. And that's what I ended up going with. And this leader, he's like, look, there's a couple of different ways this can go. You could just kill me outright, and fair enough if that's what you want to do. But Revan's fleet is already on the way, and he's just going to smoke you guys. You're done for. You can basically leave your company and be hired by mine, and I'll vouch for you with Revan's fleet, and you won't get killed. Or I could, we can fight, and if I overpower you, then we could just take you captive and sell you off. And they're like, and then one of the players is basically like the leader of the bunch, at least when it comes to like conversations and stuff. He bluffs, and he says, I'm actually like a secret member of Revan's fleet. He rolled really well, and the enemy leader believed him, and he's like, well, crap, I'm out of options. Like, if Revan's fleet arrives, this guy, he's just going to say, hey, I'm with you, don't kill us. And you've already killed all my guys, so this is done for. But I had already written that this guy, he's very honor driven. He's not just going to give up. So there's no way that he's going to surrender to these guys, but he knows he's not going to win. And so he's like, okay. And this is something I came up with in the moment. I'm like, what if he offers to duel this other player? So it's not going to be a huge blowout fight, but he's like, there's no way I'm going to surrender. So at least grant me this duel. And if I win, or if you win, you can do whatever you want with my lieutenants, whoever's left. They could join your forces. You can kill them, whatever. And you could take your chances with Revan's fleet. If I win, I take all of you prisoner, and you'll have your lives, but Revan's not going to kill you all. And so this became like an interesting standoff with the players, and they also, because they're mercenaries, they all have different kind of allegiances and motivations. And so some of them, one of them was like, I'm just going to grab popcorn and watch this whole thing. I'm going to join the winning side. This will be great. And another guy was like, that, our coworker is like a part of Revan's fleet. This is not okay. Like, I'm not okay with this. Like, if he loses, like, I'm going to take off running. And then this other guy, he's basically just there for like, as self-preservation. He's like, if our guy loses, like, I'm just going to run, like, no matter what. I'm going to steal a ship, do whatever it takes. And then like another person's like, yeah, I totally want our guy to win. So it'd be very interesting to see what would happen depending on how this duel shakes out. So they set the player agreed to the duel because I knew he's also a very honor driven character. There's no way he's going to back down from this. So I was goading him into a fight, and he knew it, and he accepted it. And so they make their preparations. Some of the other players like kind of buffed him up and did whatever they could to make sure that he would win. And it was very, very close. The enemy commander, I balanced him so that him and his two lieutenants could take on a party size of like 6 players. And so he's very, very tough. He's not that hard to hit, but he has a huge bonus to hit. He does a ridiculous amount of damage, and he can attack 3 times per turn. So, and Oof. This other player, he can only attack like twice per turn. So math-wise, it was not looking good for him. But he had a couple of clutch moves, and the player ended up winning with like 10 hit points left, which is nothing at this level.
Yeah.
And so he got to kill him. He got to take his like really good lightsaber. The lieutenants kind of surrendered and submitted themselves to be killed, but he's like, nah, how would you like to join our company? We'll hire you. And they're like, okay, but we're really expensive because we're part of this really infamous mercenary company. He's like, that's fine, we'll pay it. And then Revan's fleet shows up, and they're like, oh crap, we got to get out of here. So they did, and their capital ship took a huge ton of damage and barely made it out of there. But it's all really cool setup for the next arc of this campaign. And what I'm proud of is that my players really loved it. And even though only one guy was playing in the final battle, like they were all on board with it and were invested into what would happen, which I'm like, yes, I love this. And there's a ton of different possibilities for what's going to happen, and I really don't know how all the players are going to respond to it. So we'll have to see what happens, but it was way cooler than I could have planned for, and I'm glad that I had the wherewithal to kind of take these ideas as they came and just like, you know, just sling crap with both hands and see what happened. So that happened.
Very nice.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun. Okay, I've talked about tabletop gaming for too long. Todd wrote in. He just picked up Claudia Gray's High Republic book, The Fallen Star, and it is dope, all capitals. Must read, digging it so far. So thank you, Todd. And that's about it for this episode. So let's get out of here. Thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR, Galactic Public Access. You can find some of these fine folks on the socials. Heather at Hawk Awesome, Carla at Carla Marie Giac, Todd at Tizod, myself at Aaron Julian, and we're part of this fantastic network of Star Wars podcasts called the Red 5 Network. That's at Red numeral 5 Network. And of course, our own handle at WSTR Media. We want to hear from you, so please comment, tweet, rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you give us a 5-star rating, we'll throw some swag directly into your face. You better be ready to catch it. You can catch our entire back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com. We got merch at store.wstrmedia.com. And of course, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/WSTRmedia. Thanks everybody in the YouTube chat for hanging out with us. We love having you here. And we live stream every Monday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time-ish. Might be a little early, might be a little late, but we have a lot of fun there, and you can see our bright and shining faces, as well as the pets of WSTR, which is really why you're here. Let's be real. And again, we want to thank you so much for all your support these last 5 years. We've just crossed the 5-year threshold in 250 episodes, so we're excited for this next year coming up. If you have any ideas for a show, or you would love us to interview someone, either yourself or someone that you know, drop us a line at mailbox@wstrmedia.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. That way you can leave a voicemail like Ro has in the past, and we'll play it on an upcoming episode. Ro, how was your experience leaving a voicemail for the show?
It was easy as space pie. Is space pie a thing? Yeah, I have you guys. I have you guys as favorite number 12.
Wow.
Oh,
Very easy. Yeah.
To be so lucky. Wow. That's a place of honor. All right. And Ro, where can everybody find you?
Look for us everywhere on the socials, wherever you get your other favorite podcasts, at Scarif Podcast. We are like a bad penny. We're always popping up.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining the show today. It was a pleasure to have you as part of our Darth Vader Imperial Inspection.
I am so happy I did. I had a lot of fun talking about Darth Vader, and it's again, my favorite character. One last message for Carla.
no.
Are you scared? It frightens you.
Good luck sleeping tonight. All right. Next week, episode 254, we are doing a mid-season review of the first 4 chapters of the Book of Boba Fett. So crack out your reading glasses, grab a comfy chair, brew up some tea next to your reading nook, and read up on those 4 chapters of the Book of Boba Fett. And can't wait to see you next week. And until then, there's only one way to end this show. Now this is podcasting.
gonna